Now, healing from a toxic relationship can be extremely hard, and that is because you've likely experienced some kind of trauma. And trauma recovery is a real thing that should not be skipped over. The first thing that I want to tell you, based on my years of research and trauma recovery, some of my own journey that I've been on, is that you can't skip over the trauma recovery part. So the first thing I want you to do, if you feel like you've been seriously wounded, maybe it brought up an unhealed childhood wound, is to get some trauma therapy, some coaching that specifically helps your body to heal from the trauma in a way that can help you move forward. So that's the first directive. Number two, from a spiritual perspective, I just want to talk to you for a minute about something that really helped me in the process to understand as I was moving forward. Now, I've been through so much therapy. I'm a trained therapist. I think so much of it can work, but once you get to a place where you really want to go to the next level and you want to understand things from a spiritual perspective, and you're watching my channel, so it's my guess that you like to look at things from a spiritual perspective. And this is what's helped me in my healing from my childhood trauma and the trauma in toxic relationships, is understanding every relationship that you've called into your life, because yes, each relationship is actually called in, has been a choice for you and for them on a soul level for the main purpose to help you grow. Now, I know this is a really hard thing to digest, especially around like childhood abuse or anything that is super traumatizing and causes harm to people. But the truth is that we have soul contracts and soul agreements with people as we come into this life. And each one of these experiences, after you've had your trauma healing, if you can come to a place of deep spiritual introspection, one of the key things that you can do to shift you from staying in victim mode and to move forward with a life where you find that happiness and that next wonderful relationship is by looking at what that relationship was there to teach you. The process is a self-inquiry, looking at what did I learn from that relationship? Who am I today that I would not have been had I not been through that pain, the lessons that I learned? Now, let me give you a caveat. You're not being punished, okay? So I don't want you to think, I was raised in the Christian church and I was taught that, if you engage in things that aren't in the will of God, you're going to be punished, and God's always punishing you and striking you down with lightning. That is not true. None of these relationships were here to punish you. You were not born here to be victimized. You were here, you were put here, you chose to be here, as a matter of fact, to grow from a spiritual perspective. And the main way that we grow is through relationships with others. The relationships, by the way, that help us to grow the most are the ones that cause us the most pain and the most challenge. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but if you can get into the mindset where you can look at, what did that teach me? How much stronger am I now than I would have been had I not been through that experience? What do I know that I didn't know before that has helped me to grow? The other thing that you can look at is from the perspective of, I went through something that was so hard, that treated me so badly. Now I know you've been through, you know more about what you want in your life. You've actually refined, looking at law of attraction, what you do and don't want to attract into your life. So recovering from a toxic relationship also means that you're coming to a point where you can decide that you're going to say no more to that. You're going to do the work to stop the patterns from the past, because you're worth more than the toxicity that you were experiencing in your life. So now you can look at, okay, so I grew in ways that helped me to see I really want more of this in my life, and I will no longer accept that. And that, my friend, is spiritual growth. So now that we know that you are in this experience right now to grow spiritually, let's just go back and look at how you can heal and alchemize those feelings so that you can continue to ascend down your spiritual path. The first thing that I want you to do is to really recognize and validate what you experienced. What were the feelings that this brought up in you? What unhealed wounds did you have as a child that got reactivated? Now, again, if there is some kind of trauma still in your body, I want you to get that healed through specific trauma therapy. But if you're to a place where you can really look at this and you can express it, this is a great time for you to journal things out, to write down, what did I learn? Something that I've learned that works really, really well for me and for a lot of my clients is actually doing mirror work. And that is where, because what happens in relationships like this is we often lose our sense of self-love. If you've been through toxic relationships with especially narcissists or abusive people, what happens is there's a chipping away of your own sense of worthiness, of your self-love, and that's what we want to rebuild, okay? So look at what did this try to dismember in me that maybe you've experienced before? What made it such a profound experience for you? And part of mirror work in doing that is when you talk to yourself in the mirror and give yourself permission to be as honest as you can, to feel what you're feeling as honestly as you can, and to talk through yourself with an act of self-love through your feelings. And what this looks like is you express your emotions to yourself, and then you talk about how much you love yourself. It can start by just simply saying the words, I love you. And if you've never done this with mirror work, it actually can make most people cry when they do it the first time if they've never done it before. It can bring up a lot of emotions, and I want you to pay attention to those emotions because those emotions are part of your pathway to growth as you're healing through this toxic relationship. Just sit in the mirror in front of yourself, express the way that you feel, let the tears fall, and say, I love you. Use your name, Karin, I love you. Say it with intention. I love you. Look into your own eyes. I love you. The point of this is as you're saying that, your inner being, the innate part of you that is so in love with you, that has source God inside of your systems, inside of your being, inside of your spirit, is voicing to you what it really wants you to know, what it really wants you to come back to. And that can be a beautiful part of your healing process. Now, as these feelings come up in you and you're healing, part of healing this is healing the emotions that are trying to come through. So there's a process called alchemy when what you're doing is you're turning what looked like pain, what looked like something that was not serving your life, feeling it and healing it and moving it into something and transforming it into something that is powerful and that can help direct your life. You're turning your pain into purpose. So while a lot of this work is done very well with somebody supporting you, when you're on your own, you can also process the feelings. One of the ways that my clients do, and it's very effective, do this is by journaling. Journaling out, on a daily basis, I keep my journal in my meditation space. Journal out. There's something about the act of writing things out with your own hand and expressing what you feel, because what's happening in the alchemizing process is what is trapped really needs to be validated. It needs to be heard. So journaling is one way to get those emotions out. Another way is to do something that if you've got blocked anger, you need to move that energy out. So that looks like I talk about in a lot of my videos, take that bat to the bed and beat the heck out of it. I've got one that I use all the time. It's a foam bat my son has. It's always in the hallway because they like to play baseball in the front. I take that in there when they're at school because I don't want to traumatize them when they're home. And I scream it out and just bang it out. Because what's happening there is, first of all, it feels really, really good, but that energy really needs to move. Say all the things that you want to say, call all the names that you want to say, use the words that make you feel like you're expressing the way that you really feel. This can also help with just pounding with your fists if you don't have anything to hit with. Anything that moves that energy is going to be very good for you. Another thing that moves emotional energy that is very obvious, but let me explain why it's very good for you, is having a really good cry. So many of us, especially you men that are watching, are not taught to release through tears. Now, tears, there are different kinds of tears. Tears that just lubricate our eyes, and that maybe come out when we see the sun and maybe drip. The tears that you cry when you're releasing stress and anxiety and sadness actually have a different composition from the regular tears. They actually contain certain hormones and certain chemicals that are releasing stress from your body. They actually have pain-killing components that actually help your body to activate pain-killing centers that help you to feel better, that help you to neutralize the power of that pain as it's in your body. Now remember, these are emotions, but everything is energy. Everything that you're holding in your body is vibrating at a certain level. It's vibrating at a certain countenance that is keeping you trapped in a certain emotion. So the more you can release those emotions out of your body, the more that energy can find a way to move up and out. Release through movement, release through tears, release through expression of those emotions so that you can find the healing and recover from this relationship. Now I'm going to give you 3 more tips as we move forward to how to recover more quickly from this toxic relationship. But before you do, if you like the information that you're getting, I'd like you to click the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you can get more information like this to help you to find the life of abundance and love that you deserve. The next thing that I'm going to give you is a very specific thing that I want you to focus on as you're recovering from this toxic relationship, and that is self-love. This, my friend, is actually the root of all of your healing and all of this that we're going through. This is honoring who you are, honoring the feelings that you're having, honoring you as a human being, you as a spiritual being having this human experience. Because the more you can build your own self-love by engaging in things that you want to engage in, by going back, maybe this relationship had you not doing the things that you love. Very often, I've seen it with client after client, we give up part of ourselves, especially if that person had narcissistic tendencies or wanted to control you. We tend to then give up the things that we love in our life. We give up relationships, we give up our own desires of who we are. Maybe we dress differently, maybe we pretend like we're not who we really are and we lose part of ourselves. Believe me, I've done it. I've been in a marriage where I literally lost who I was, and years went by where my self-love got so low that literally friends were saying that I seemed like a shell of myself because I'd given up who I really was for the person that was trying to control me. I don't want you to live that way for much longer, or for any longer for that matter. We want you to live in a place like what I have found, which is where you put yourself first above anything. Because what you've learned through that toxic relationship is that you're not doing it again, right? You're gonna move into a place where your self-love is the primary driving force in your life. And by really enhancing a life that is filled with the things that you love, the hobbies that you've given up, revisiting the friendships that you maybe let slide because you spent so much time with that person, getting back into playing the piano, that's something that I did. You know, spending time with your kids again, if you're a mom or a dad, spending time with family, getting that puppy that you've wanted to get. And by the way, dogs are great healers after breakups. I have 2 breakup dogs myself, and they're still my best friends. Re-engaging in those things that make you feel great about yourself amplifies that self-love and makes you much more prepared to go out into the world to attract the person that really aligns with you. Do not do this alone. One of the things that happens to so many people after a bad breakup is we isolate. It's the #1 negative response to a breakup. That is holding up, Netflixing on the couch with your dog, maybe even medicating yourself in certain ways to try to relieve yourself from the pain. We want you instead to realize that this is when you deserve support. And if you're like me and like most people, you have a really hard time asking for help. This is when you need to ask for help. Your friends love you. Those that love you are your ride or die friends. This is when it's important for you to find the people, and I'd say 1 or 2 that you know that you can call when you're having a moment. So what happens a lot after breakups is you get triggered, right? Maybe your ex reaches back out to you. Maybe you saw them on a date or heard that they were, you know, on a new dating app or whatever it is that's gonna trigger you. And you're gonna have a moment where you're gonna need to express yourself. This is what I want you to ask your friend to do. If they can just be your dumping ground, for lack of a better word, because you're gonna need to dump all those emotions that are gonna bubble up because they need to get out. You can say to them, this is something that I've done that works really well. You can have them listen to the messages, or you can leave them a voice message, and you can tell them even, you don't even have to listen to this. You want the safe place where you can express your emotions, and whether that's through a voice memo or a voice message, it's a place for you to have an expression that's in a safe place with someone that you can trust, where your words won't be used against you. So you decide if you want them to listen to it and give you feedback, or whether you just need a place where you can just express and get all, again, that energy out of your body. It's a really important thing for you to surround yourself with a high vibe tribe, those girlfriends or guy friends that really love you and want your best interests, and also that will allow you to be whoever and do whatever you're dying to do in that moment. Maybe you really want to have a pajama party at home with your besties. Maybe you really want to go dancing. Maybe you want to go to the beach, whatever it is, that you get those people around you and ask them, look, I really need you right now. Do not go through this alone. You were meant to be supported because it's my guess that you've supported them in the past, and now it's your turn. The final tool I'm gonna give you is one that's super powerful, but you have to be ready for it, okay? If you've been on this journey, and you might wanna go back and save this video and watch it again right here when you're ready to do it, because this is gonna sound like impossible at first, but I promise you, you will get there, and it is around forgiveness. So let's first look at what the word forgive means. If you break it into 2 parts, it's actually for and give. Let's flip those. It actually means to give forth. So what you're doing when you are in a place where you're able to forgive is you're giving forth the energy, the pain, the suffering that you've been holding because of what that person did to you, and you're carrying it around like a poison backpack inside your body. And by forgiving, you're giving forth that energy. Maybe you're giving it back to them, you're giving it to Source, you're giving it to Mother Earth. It's really not about them at all. Actually, you don't even have to notify them. You might prefer that you don't. You are giving forth something that you're no longer willing to carry. What you're saying is, my life is meant to be supported with love. I'm not gonna carry this poison because of what happened back here. I'm gonna give forth. So here's an exercise that I actually learned from Dr.Karin, who's an amazing guru. And it's about doing this forgiveness method, because right now we are ascending as a planet, we're ascending individually, and we're not meant to carry all the shit from our past. We're ready to let go of that which is keeping us in bondage so we can activate ourselves on a higher level. So what Dolores teaches, and I love this method, it's worked for me and it works for all my clients, because it's so simple. Telepathically, and that means you don't have to be in their presence, don't leave them a message, telepathically connect to that person that you're still harboring those emotions with, that toxic soul that you have that soul contract to have that experience with. Just connect to them energetically, because that shit's real. Connect to them energetically and just say, I forgive you. Caveat, this doesn't mean what they did was right. It It doesn't mean that they may not have to pay out their own karma. It just means you're not holding on to it anymore, okay? Telepathically send them the message, I forgive you. I tear up any contract that I have with you that causes pain or suffering in my life. It is over. And envision yourself literally tearing up that contract and sending it off to God, to Mother Earth, burning it. If this doesn't feel right for you, you can actually have a ceremony where you're actually writing this down or where you're actually tearing it up. I have a client last week that he wrote everything down that he wanted to let go of from his ex, and he actually put it in a trash can and watched it leave to go to the trash compactor or the landfill, because he knew that he could never retrieve it and nobody could ever dig it up, and that ceremony worked for him. So the point is finding that ceremonial way or that intentional way of releasing that contract with that person so that you don't allow that toxic energy back in your life again. If you really connected to the information in this video and you'd like more empowering information about how to leave and heal from that toxic relationship, I have a free download for you called the 15 Red Flags of Toxic Relationships. In that download, you'll also get the reasons why you should run from them and how to help yourself get out of them. Click the link for more power in your life.